welcome to the module where we'll talk about type 1.5 glycotoxicity. If you haven't heard, some scientists are calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. And so this module will be all about how high blood glucose causes Alzheimer's and what we can do to address this. You'll also learn how to tell if you have high blood glucose, what kind of diabetes it is, and how to treat it. Why is blood glucose high? We all know that diabetes mellitus basically means high blood glucose levels. But what makes blood glucose levels high? To understand that, we first need to understand how our bodies regulate blood glucose. When we eat something, glucose starts to get absorbed into our blood from our intestines. When the glucose transporter in our pancreas detects a higher level of blood glucose, an automatic cellular response is triggered in the pancreatic cells that secrete insulin. Insulin is basically a hormone that travels in the blood to all of the cells, and it tells the cells to make glucose transport proteins to absorb the glucose from the blood into the cells. This then lowers the blood glucose levels. This mechanism is automatic and it regulates blood glucose levels very efficiently in healthy people. And why is it that our bodies don't want blood glucose to be high all the time? The reason is because when blood sugar is high for a long time, it starts to coat everything with a layer of glucose. This leads to oxidation and damage of the cells. When you measure A1C, what you're really measuring is how much glucose is getting coated onto your red blood cells. So as an analogy, think of when you sear or grill a steak. It starts to brown, right? That's the sugars in the steak caramelizing and changing the structure of the cells in the steak. In a similar way, your cells are basically changing and getting damaged the more glucose they have coated on them. Now, this is a real problem when we look at the incredibly small blood vessels that supply your eyes, your kidneys, and faraway places like your toes. The cells are already fewer in these areas, and once they're damaged, they actually stop nutrients and oxygen from getting to these vital areas. That's why when you see with long-term diabetics, they'll have problems with their vision and can become blind, or have kidney disease or rotting toes with wounds that won't heal. Now, what does all of that have to do with the brain? In a similar way, when your brain cells get coated with too much glucose, they start to get damaged and lose functionality. High blood glucose also promotes chronic inflammation, and we've already seen in previous modules how bad chronic inflammation is for the brain function, right? That's why glycotoxicity is termed type 1.5, because high blood glucose causes chronic inflammation as well, but it's a different cause as compared to infections. Having said that, persistent high blood glucose can impair immunity, leading to difficulty fighting off infections and thereby feeding that chronic inflammation monster.
This was an excerpt from our Masterclass Ending Alzheimer's with the Bredesen protocol. If you liked this video and found it helpful, you'll want to check out this masterclass at our Sophus online website. Click below to find out more.